and now I will show you some miniatures from chapter 1. Keep in mind, I have changed the pieces to reflect the fact that Colle was a Belgian grandmaster, so it's possible that he was using a lardy chess set in order to play his games. The game number 1 is Colle Rothmeier in Bad Oeynhausen 1922. So this was the fourth tournament that Colle played. So the fourth international competition that Colle played, okay? Colle is white, he plays d4, d5, knight f3, knight f6, c4, oops, e6, knight c3, bishop e7, bishop g5, castle. So this is a typical Queen's Gambit decline. We call it also orthodox game because it's very typical. e3. So let's remember that generally the Colle system, the bishop stay behind bc3. Instead, Colle maybe still had to develop his own style and opening. So after e3, c6, bishop d3, knight b d7, castle, rook e8, queen e2, queen c7, rook a c1, and finally there is take on c4. Bishop takes c4, e5, bishop h4, and now black makes a horrible blunder. What is the horrible blunder? E takes d4. Why this is a blunder? Since we are also trying to learn from these games, try to pause the video and see what you would play in this situation. Okay? What would you play in this situation? Obviously, the problem is always f7, sorry. So bishop takes f7, check, boom. King takes f7, knight g5, and king g6. Obviously, if the king goes here, for example, there is this, okay? So there he cannot go. If he goes here, again, there is this, check, okay? And of course, if you take, why is this even important? Because these are typical checkmate patterns, if you like, okay? So you need to know them. Obviously you go here, checkmate. But if you go here, what happens? Well, this happens, check, tack, double check, oh, tack, tack. Well, you go here, right? Oops. Checkmate. This is the classical Smother checkmate, right? So let's hope I'm able to go back to the position. Eventually let me pause the video for a second, but this is the point that I was trying to make. Sometimes they don't put all the lines or the reason, they just give you a hint, and you need to have made your own homework in order to understand why that thing is really wrong. So I brought the position back, and in this point he played e takes d4, big blunder. Why? Because of bishop takes f7. After king takes f7, knight g5, he decides to go here because he thinks he will survive. unfortunately that's not the case, because you see this knight here blocks this defensive piece, so check, and the king still has to escape, and he escapes obviously in the toward the enemy territory, and that's a mess, that's a mess. But let's see why it's a mess. You see this one and this one. This is kind of called X-ray attack. Oops. Knight d5. Huh? Amazing move. Now, if you take on d5, he takes here, and things really go bad, because when you go here with your king, the checkmate is a sure thing, right? So after knight d5, obviously black does do this, no? And after this, what do you think white plays? He plays knight, boom, here giving check. Obviously he doesn't sacrifice the queen because he doesn't want to lose the queen. So he takes the bishop, saying, ha ha ha, look, I took your bishop and now I'm going to take your knight. Unfortunately, that knight goes back, check, tick, tick. And after this move, white, because you must remember, okay, that the goal of the game is to give checkmate, is not to eat pieces like in Pac-Man, right? And this is the end. Instead of taking here, here it gives a checkmate. These two are controlled by this is controlled by this is controlled by the queen, he cannot go anywhere, okay? So a beautiful game by Colle, played in 1922, and now we can watch another of these games.